Welcome, and thank you for joining us this evening for our Genealogy Week program, Introduction to AI for Genealogy. I'm Pam Taylor, manager at Harford County Public Library's Joppa branch. As a reminder, please don't take photos or screenshots of this presentation to protect the intellectual property of the presenter. You're welcome to review the content of this performance since it's being recorded and will be available along with a handout at hcplonline.org through February the 28th. Now let's get on with the show. We're thrilled to have Peggy Jude back with us this evening. Peggy has been conducting genealogical research for families and clients for over 40 years. She specializes in and teaches 5 areas of genealogical interest: DNA, genealogical technology, genealogical methodology, Swedish genealogy, and preserving family history and family heirlooms. Peggy is a member of the Association of Professional Genealogists, the Genealogical Speakers Guild, NGS, and multiple other genealogical societies. She has presented at genealogical societies and conferences across the US and Canada. She's an alumna of ProGen and has completed multiple advanced genealogical institutes. She was an instructor for the DNA Foundations course at IGHR from 2023 to 2025. Peggy serves as the vice president and member of the board of Manatee Genealogical Society in Florida. She leads both her Technology for Genealogy and DNA Special Interest Groups, where she teaches monthly. Peggy holds a BS in zoology from Ohio State and in an MBA from the University of Michigan. Following her successful career as a global human resources executive for a Fortune 500 company, Peggy opened her genealogy business, Jude Family Research, centered on the west coast of Florida. Peggy has been busy. Peggy will be using a PowerPoint during her presentation this evening, and you can adjust what you're seeing on your screen by using Screen View in Zoom. Please feel free to submit questions via the Q&A feature in Zoom, and at the end of the show, I'll try to get to as many of them as I can. We'd really appreciate if you would take time to complete the quick survey right after the credits. We use your input to choose topics for our virtual genealogy program, so it's time well spent and it takes just a moment. So thank you. And now it's my pleasure to present Peggy Jude.
Thank you very much, Pam. It's delightful to be here again with all of you. I love being on your agenda for Genealogy Week. And I'm excited to talk about AI and its use in genealogy. This is an area that's rapidly changing. It really changes on a weekly basis. I'll be giving you an overview of the technology and some options on how you might use it today. But please be aware that if you attended this a year ago or 6 months ago or even a month ago, it would be different, as it would be in the future, because new things are coming along all the time. So I will try and give you kind of up-to-date news, but if something changes next month, I did warn you. This is what we're going to cover. It's an introduction to artificial intelligence. Those of us who are genealogists like a little history, so I'm going to do a little history up front. We're going to talk about the various AI tools and platforms that are out there. Then what AI's role has been and it continues to be in genealogy, and how you can use AI in your genealogical efforts. There is a handout. Certainly, it's got lots of additional resources, and I encourage you to check out all of the things on there. I have a lot to cover though, so I'm just going to kind of charge through all that, and we'll take questions at the end. So a little history on artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is actually very old. Believe it or not, it was actually first worked on in 1956. So older than most of you, I'm sure. And then in 1964, facial recognition actually was started. So facial recognition's been around a long time. Obviously, you can use your smartphone right now to unlock your phone using your face, but that all started in 1964. The first time most people really knew about this idea of, smart computers is in 1997 when IBM's Big Blue beat Garry Kasparov in chess. He was the ranking world grandmaster, and IBM's Big Blue beat him at chess. Now, that was, a game that all the rules of the game were input and independently calculated, and the machine decided what the best possible moves are. And Deep Blue, as it was called, was finally able to beat him. But it was really only possible using huge amounts of computer power and special hardware. So we're talking about rooms full of equipment back in 1997. And then in 2000, Netflix actually started their recommendations. And how that worked was the typical thing you see today, even based on what you've watched, you might like the following. So they teed up recommendations to you on what you might want to watch next. In 2004, email spam filters were introduced. The idea is to go through your mail and intelligently identify what's spam. I know that while this has been out for more than 20 years, a lot of us wish it was a lot better still, but that's how long ago it was created. In 2009, Uber started in San Francisco. Uber is obviously, very computer oriented, figures out where you are and where you're going and who the best person to take you there. And that was started in 2009. In 2011, Watson, again, IBM, won Jeopardy. So got pretty smarter than the best Jeopardy champion. Voice recognition started to be widely known. Siri and Alexa started in 2012, so they've been around quite a while. 2014, self-driving vehicles for the first time with the Tesla pilot. So you get the idea that artificial intelligence has been around a while and it's been developing over all this time. And it's actually in use in ways that maybe you didn't realize were artificial intelligence, but we've all been using artificial intelligence for quite some time. But the big event that kind of changed the conversation happened in October of 2022 when ChatGPT was released. Hard to believe that this is now over 3 years old, but it's definitely changed things. But, so if AI has been around for a while, what's all the hype? Um, well, generative AI, which is what ChatGPT and its partners are called, has really captured the imagination and the fears of the public. And generative AI will be transformational. It's not an understatement to say it's analogous to the introduction of the television. Before the television, you didn't see things live. You didn't have the ability to go places you'd never been to before. Really, the television in your home was transformational. And then came the personal computer. The personal computer, of course, was also transformational and changed how business was done and how people connect with each other, followed by the cell phone. And obviously, the cell phone was a huge transformational event. All of these transformational technologies had long adoption curves, where, from the time you had your first television to when everybody in the neighborhood had a television could have been a matter of years. From the time when you got your first computer or when your office got its first computer to when everybody had one, again, a long transformation period. Cell phones a little bit faster, but not everybody wanted to carry around one of these Motorola bricks. They wanted, the easy one to put in your pocket that is smart, like we all have today. But this transformation with ChatGPT is kind of the latest transformational event, and it is no understatement to say that this is going to transform the world of work and how we all interact. And so it's just the next major technological transformation. But this is kind of the general population of artificial intelligence and what's going on out there in the outside world. But within genealogy, there's also been this kind of a transformation. So let's talk about the history of AI in genealogy, because it's being used by all the large companies, but it has been for years. In the past, these have taken huge computing power and decades of development and programming. But let's go through some of the notable examples. First up is optical character recognition. So optical character recognition has been around since the 50s. Optical character recognition really transformed your ability to take information from a printed page. A newspaper is the most common example, to actually scan a newspaper page and pull out of it the text and recognize the characters, and then reproduce those. So a lot of the newspaper information available online is done using optical character recognition, where it actually scans the page and pulls all of the actual characters off the page. 23andMe did something really kind of startling. They introduced, and these are by the way, in date order. 23andMe built DNA trees for people who had tested a 23andMe without having any tree information in any records. They took your DNA and they actually built a DNA tree for you as to how all these matches were related to you. It was a pretty amazing feat at the time, for you to be able to see an actual tree with no tree input whatsoever. Then both Ancestry and MyHeritage introduced at the same year, at the same Roots Tech, Through Lines and Theory of Family Relativity. Both of these use DNA matches and try and tell you how your DNA matches are related to you through trees or through trees and records in the case of Theory of Family Relativity. Huge computing power necessary, huge algorithms and analysis necessary to really pull all of this information together and feed it to you as opportunities for how you might be related to a match. Again, theory of how you might be related, you have to confirm that, but that's artificial intelligence. Then photo restoration. MyHeritage photo apps were the first on the scenes that most people remember. There were small organizations doing this. In fact, MyHeritage bought a company. And the photo apps allowed MyHeritage to do some pretty amazing photo restoration with your photos. It allowed you to fix errors, to colorize, to even animate them. So all of those things are artificial intelligence. And then artificial intelligence started on the task of handwriting recognition. Handwriting recognition started with the 1950 US Census indexing, where the 1950 census was completely released in April of 2022. And at that time, it was, fully reviewed by artificial intelligence to try and create first an index and then a complete coverage of the census. In comparison, the 1940 US Census took 9 months for individual people to index. The 1950 US Census indexing was done in 9 days. So huge advancement using artificial intelligence. And then finally, Family Search introduced full text search about a year and a half ago, which is truly an amazing tool, very transformational. If you haven't used full text search, I highly recommend it. Family Search is able to go into their collections, and they now have thousands of collections available for full text search. They've been able to go into their collections, do full handwriting, full text search recognition on those documents, and then surface them to you so you can search documents and find documents you might never have ever been able to find before. Full text search means what it says, full text. Every word is indexed. And you can, look for any word in a document. You can look for a land description. You can look for an occupation. You can look for 2 families in one document. You can look for a great number of pieces of information in all those documents. Again, amazing use of artificial intelligence. So that's what's come in the large world of genealogy and in the larger world for our artificial intelligence. But let's break it down a little bit. And we're going to talk about types of AI. And while artificial intelligence encompasses the idea of a machine that can mimic human intelligence, machine learning isn't what that is. Machine learning aims to teach a machine how to perform a specific task. and provide accurate results by identifying patterns. Natural language processing is the ability of a machine to understand natural language as it's spoken by humans. The notable example here, of course, is Siri or Alexa. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And their ability to understand your requests or not understand your requests. I'm sure you've all had some pretty funny interactions with Siri or Alexa that didn't understand you, but the idea is that it understands natural language as it's spoken. And finally, where we're going to spend the rest of our time is talking about large language models, or LLMs. Large language models are the type of artificial intelligence that ChatGPT is. So large language models are otherwise known as generative AI or Gen AI. Generative AI because it generates text, it generates answers. So generative AI or large language models come in lots of different options. ChatGPT is the most well-known and the most widely used. ChatGPT is owned by OpenAI. Claude is another option, which is owned by Anthropic. There's also Gemini, which is Google's entry, Copilot, which is Microsoft's entry. A lot of companies are using Copilot. A lot of them are also using ChatGPT. Perplexity is a little bit different. Perplexity is more like what I would describe as Trivago. Trivago basically goes out and looks at all the various hotel sites and brings you back a compilation of the hotels available. That's what Perplexity does. It goes out and uses ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and the other language models and brings back kind of a summarization of all the various options. Grok is also available on X. Meta AI is the Facebook offering, and there are lots of others. There are a lot of small companies in this business. There are a lot of niche projects in this business. But I kind of liken this to the days where you had a BlackBerry phone, or you had a Motorola phone, or you had a Nokia phone, and now pretty much everybody has a Apple phone or a Samsung phone, or certainly an iOS or the Android platforms, right? So we're not sure how this is all going to shake out, but I doubt that there's going to be this many solutions out there in the long run. But in the meantime, they're all available. They all work in different ways. But at their core, they do the same thing. They generate information. Now let's talk a little bit about these programs. These are all built using very complex neural network architecture. They are inspired by the human brain. They're really trying to, mimic way a brain works and a brain thinks. And the idea is to see whose model is going to win in the end. But all LLMs like chat are just very, very sophisticated text predictors. Very sophisticated text predictors, but the basics are still the same. So I'm going to strip it back a little and talk about a very simple example. This is something you might see on your smartphone, except now AI will predict full paragraphs and more. So let's walk through this. So if you type into a text message on your phone, thanks so, you will see predictive text. It will say, do you want to say thanks so much? Thanks so very much? Thanks so, so much? It will anticipate what you want the next word to be. All right, so you say, let's pick thanks so much. And then it's going to predict that you're going to look for the next word, which could be for or I and. And then finally, you're going to say, thanks so much for everything. And then it goes on. And do you want to end with thanks so much for everything, or do you want to add another word? So you get the idea that it's predicting what you want to happen next. And that's what a large language model is doing. It's predicting what you want to say. And it's based on probabilities and the options. And you can see right here that the various choices it gives you are all logical next words in the sentence. And what the large language models are doing is giving you the logical next information based on your query. Doesn't mean it's necessarily correct. It doesn't mean it's exactly what you want, but it's trying to predict the answer based on what you're asking for. So a little bit more about ChatGPT. Of course, it opened in November 22 when it was allowed open access to the public. That was called ChatGPT 3.5. The interface is like texting. You have an open box that you can enter anything into it you want. From a genealogical world, Blaine Bettinger started a Facebook group called Genealogy and Artificial Intelligence, and that really became the main hub for discussions and insights. It's still going today, has thousands and thousands of followers. You can go out and just read, you can scroll, you can search for a specific topic if you want. There's lots of great information. There's new people joining all the time, so there's always new people asking basic questions. But you don't have to ask a question at all. You can just read some of the history and get some insights that way. ChatGPT now has 400 million weekly users, which is double the number of weekly users 1 year ago. So it is exploded. It's incredible. 19% of those over 50 in the United States are using an LLM. So if you're the category of over 50, which we know a large portion of the genealogy population is, and you're using an LLM, you're in that 19%, and congratulations. But that means there's just lots of room for folks over 50 to jump on board. ChatGPT 5.2 is the latest model. It's free, but it does come with limits, which means you might be able to only upload a certain number of documents. You might be only able to talk to it for a certain period of time before it says come back later. There are some tools within it that you can't get to, but you can use it for free. But users send 2.5 billion prompts each day to ChatGPT. So there's certainly lots of things being asked of it out there. That's an incredible amount of volume. Now, so the question, of course, is where are you on the adoption curve? So I talked about only 19% of the people over 50 are using it. And one of the ways to think about this is, did your family have one of the first TVs? When did you get your first PC? I mean, for me, it was in 1980 when I bought a Radio Shack PC. And, I did start genealogy as a teenager, yes. So when did you get a cell phone? Did you get a big clunky Motorola brick phone, or did you wait? The bottom line, of course, is it doesn't matter where you were, but it matters where you want to be now in this new technology. And the folks who are over 50 are kind of still in this early adopter category of the technology adoption curve. So you definitely need to think about whether or not you want to be one of the folks who's jumping on board. And I want you to think about something. People have been resisting new ways to do things forever. I'll tell you how forever. Socrates thought that writing weakened the necessity for power of memory and for allowing the pretense of understanding rather than true understanding. So he didn't like the idea of people starting to write things down. Math teachers demonstrated against the use of calculators and so on. But, who could manage life without some of those things today? So this is really one of those things about embracing a new way of doing things and trying it out. One caveat I do want to give people is that this is not Google. And you shouldn't use that as if it is Google. Now, Google's changing. So if you go to Google today, you'll notice that it'll give you an AI-generated answer. So Google itself is shifting because it's afraid that everybody's going to shift to using OpenAI and leave Google behind. So it's shifting its own way of doing things. But the reality is we still have our brains wired to think about asking questions the way we used to ask Google. So the reality is we don't want to use it as if it's Google. That's really not what it's for. And so let's talk a little bit about what that means. Google has wired your brain. We've all used it now for a long time, and it's trained us all to see an open text box as a search box. So you're going to put in search terms. From a Google perspective, you didn't have to put in sentences, you didn't have to put in parameters, you just put in terms, right? So, you wanted to buy a new ladder, you put in the word ladder. But generative AI is not Google. Search, which is command-based, is not the same thing as communication, which is how Gen AI works. Gen AI is a communications-based vehicle, and the goal is not to command, it's to have a conversation. And the other thing about generative AI is that you'll get it wrong, and you'll need to ask more and correct and continue, but it's a dialogue. It's an ongoing dialogue, right? So if it doesn't give you what you want, you just say, no, this way, or add this, or do that. And you wouldn't do that in Google. You'd have to start a whole new search. But this continues on, knowing what you've already told it, and it continues to get better and better as you give it more information, or you clarify your request. Now, of course, Google has changed, and Gemini 3 is Google's AI tool. And if you're using Gemini 3, none of this applies, but I'm just talking about the basic Google search. But I do want you to think a little bit about how to interact with this tool differently from how you might interact with Google. So this is where you start. This is a OpenAI ChatGPT text box. This is what the interface looks like. This is where you start. It's just sitting there waiting for you to ask it something. Before we start entering anything in this box, I do want to give you a few warnings. The first of all is that this tool wants to answer your question. It wants to please you. It's a predictive machine, and it says, okay, I can answer this. I know the answer, and it'll give you an answer. Doesn't mean it's necessarily the right one. So you have to be understanding that it wants to please you. It's kind of very interesting. If it doesn't have an answer, it'll make something up. So you must check the facts and the results. You are the adult in the equation. You're the human in the loop. You're the researcher. It's the research assistant. There's lots of ways that that's phrased out there. But the reality is that you have to understand that this is a tool to help you, but you still are the person in charge. Now, it's been a long road in the last 3 years, and it's gotten much, much better. When this first started back in October of 22, I asked it to write the biography of my ancestor, Henry Bailey, born in 1836. And it gave me an answer that had colleges and awards and jobs, and some of it was in the 20th century. I remember he was born in 1836. Come on, give me a break. Clearly, he wasn't alive. So it just spun all kind of fantastic tools. And by the way, at that point, some people just gave up. Some people went, oh, this isn't for me. This is no good. It's all wrong. But they have really fixed a lot of this over the years, and it is much, much better. Doesn't mean it doesn't hallucinate. It doesn't mean it doesn't give you incorrect information, but it's much more, it's right more than much more than it's wrong. Okay, so the goal of filling in that text box and getting information out of artificial intelligence is to ask the right questions in the right way. And that's critical to getting good output. So a new skill was born with all these large language models called prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is the skill of writing great prompts. So let's talk about what a great prompt includes. So a good prompt includes these kind of components, and not everyone includes all of these. And as you work through it, you'll understand what's necessary and what's not. But typically you can start with a context, which is a role. You're a historian, you're a genealogist, you're a chemist, or whatever it is that you're asking a question about. You want to use positive action verbs, so things like create or summarize or extract or transcribe. It's not great with negatives, so saying don't do this, don't do that isn't always helpful. So positive action words are important. Often you just need to flip the script of how to say no in another way. You need to clearly state the desired topic or task. What are you trying to accomplish? Again, it wants to please you. So what do you want it to do? And the clearer you are about what you want it to do, the better. You can set guidelines. Guidelines, things like don't make anything up, only use what I've provided. I was asking for an image the other day, and it decided to give me five of them, and I went, I would like one, please. It was within the same image, five of the same thing, and I only wanted one. So you have to like give it guidelines. You should specify the output. So do you want it in a table or a chart or a narrative or a list? Do you want it in three sentences or one paragraph? Um, Maybe you want it to give you an in-depth analysis. Maybe you just want three-sentence summary. You can also specify the output from this perspective of what level do you want it to provide it to you in. Do you want the answer to be good for a fifth grader? Do you want the answer to be good for a college student? What level of output are you looking for? And that's often helpful. I mean, if you're trying to help a kid with homework and they want to know why the sky is blue, you don't want the scientific answer of why the sky is blue, which it can give you. You want the fifth grade answer of why is the sky blue, right? So if you set those guidelines and output components, that's very helpful. You can also feed it content or reference material, right? So if you feed it uh, a document, or if you feed it reference material, or if you tell it what you're giving it, like, and we'll see in some examples coming up here, the time frame from something, the language it's in, where it came from, all of that information can help it give you a much better response. And then you give it feedback. This is not a one-time and done thing. You're not asking for, you're asking for something very simple. You're typically not asking for just one topic. You're asking it to iterate, to give you a better answer. So give it feedback, ask it to change something, and basically keep going until you get what you're looking for. Now, there is a point of no return. I mean, you can ask it to fix something, and by the time you get to the 20th time, it might start to lose the thread, and you might have to start over. But for the most part, you should be able to continuously iterate with it in a conversation. So this is a simple example. You want it to give you information. This is a simple request. But instead, I love this one because it's not a genealogy solution, but it gives you a really good context. Instead of what should I plant next season, you can say, I'm a gardener in Georgia who's picking some winter crops to try for the first time. What new plants should I consider trying? And what gardening advice should I make sure to remember? Right? So that's a more in-depth prompt, but it's giving it context. It's giving it what you want. It tells you that you're, trying something for the first time, and what advice should I have? You're talking to it like you're explaining something to a coworker or an intern. We often say to people, think about this as your intern, and your intern doesn't know a lot. They don't know as much as you do. So what do you need to tell them so they're going to be successful? And that's one way to think about how you would prompt a large language model. Now, the other thing that's important here is that you need to practice. There's a kind of a controversy about how long it takes, but the predominant information out there is it takes about 20 hours of practicing to learn how to use this, and a lot more to get good. I mean, you didn't learn to play the clarinet in 5 minutes, and so you're not going to learn to run a large language model in 5 minutes either. But one of the things you really need to do is just go out there and play. Try multiple models, try different prompts, refine your correct requests, have that discussion we talked about, and again, treat it like an intern or a new coworker. But practice. You can't break it. There's nothing you can do wrong, and you'll learn from doing. So practice is important. The other thing, though, you can do is you can let AI write a prompt for you. You don't have to be great at prompt writing. You just ask it for what you want to do. So here's an example. You're a professional genealogist. You want to fully analyze an obituary and extract relevant information, making sure to only stick to the facts in the obituary and not add or edit anything. Please help me write a prompt that would help me do that, right? So that's a prompt to get a prompt, right? By the way, you can also dictate that. Many of the models now will let you just talk. Certainly, if you have ChatGPT on your smartphone, you can just talk to it and it'll talk back. I mean, you maybe have seen the commercials. And so the reality is that you don't have to be able to write a really terrific prompt. And let's see what happens when you get that prompt from the answer to this particular prompt. Here's what you get. Here's a highly effective professional prompt you can use to extract genealogical information strictly from the obituary content and suitable for BCG standard research. So BCG, if you don't know, is the Board for Certification of Genealogy. They have very good standards, and this is following BCG standards. You didn't tell it to that. It came up with that on its own. And here's all the various things it says you can do as far as pulling things out. Relevant information, only information explicitly stated, don't infer or assume any details, and presented in the following structured output format. So it's picked the output, it's picked the input, it's done all this work for you. And then you literally got a prompt. The next prompt from it said, would you like me to run this prompt on the obituary now to demonstrate how it performs? Okay, go for it. That's better than any prompt I would write. Thank you very much. So the reality is that you can use the tool to be better at using the tool. And this is how. So let's talk about all the things it can do for genealogy. And there's where we're going to spend all the rest of our time. It can do all of these things. It can do document processing. It can do language support, research assistant. It can generate photos and images. It can, do brainstorming and idea generation, writing and creation. It can support your education and learning. It can give you tech support. These are not the big genealogy company offerings. These are things you can directly use generative AI for. So let's start with document processing. It can do text analysis and extraction, summarization. It can do transcription. And so you can literally upload a file, a printed document or a printed image. You can query the document or image. You can ask it to transcribe, extract, summarize, create a narrative, create successive prompts. The size and the file format does matter. The various large language models live on a concept called tokens, and some of them allow more tokens than others. Tokens is just a measure of how many bits, if you will, a document takes to analyze. Small documents, 3 or 5 pages, there's no issues at all. But once you start getting in hundreds of pages, then it might not have enough contextual size to take all of that image. And it uses half of the context window, the number of tokens. It uses half of that window as input and the other half as output. So if you say, okay, well, it can take this many tokens and that's the number of tokens I'm using, what's the problem? Well, it needs that many tokens to provide you with output as well. So you can really only use half of the tokens available. And the various programs and the various models have different sizes. Typically, what we would tell you is that Google Gemini has the largest context window. It can take the largest size documents. A ChatGPT and Claude are a little bit smaller. But that's only if you're working with very large documents. For the most part, if you're looking with small documents, it really doesn't matter. So here's an example. This is an obituary from my collection. I uploaded this. This is a JPEG image, and I provided it with this prompt. Can you please transcribe this obituary? Do not change or alter any of the text. Please provide it in the same line format as the original. Okay? So I want you to pay particular attention to the items that I'm going to show you in yellow. So on this obituary, it says that she is survived by 7 daughters, 20 grandchildren, and 1 grandchild. Now, all of us reading that have naturally inferred that there's a mistake there, that should say, and 1 great-grandchild. Why would it have 20 grandchildren and then 1 grandchild? They left out the word great for great-grandchild. That we all naturally infer that, right? So we know there's an error in the obituary. Then I also want you to look down here at the bottom where it says Mrs. Mary McKenna of San Diego, right? Okay, so this is the transcription it gave me back. The first one in yellow is correct. It did not change 1 grandchild. The next one down there, however, Mrs. Mary McKenna is not McKenna, it's McKenna with an E. It was an A, so that's not bad. I then gave it this prompt. Please process this obituary. Provide a table of the people in the obituary and the relevant information on each of them. And it produced this lovely table, which talked to me all about everybody who's in here and what their relationship was and details about them. But you see what it said under Mrs. Bridget Skeins Powers? It says that she has one great grandchild. So I didn't tell it that. It decided on its own that there was an error and it was going to correct it. It was trying to be very helpful. So it changed the obituary. So those are the kind of small things that I'm talking about that these models will do. They're trying to please you. It's trying to say, I know this is wrong. You all know this is wrong. So let's make it right. Except I wanted it word by word. And so, of course, that's not true. And then, of course, you still have Mrs. Mary McKenna spelled wrong. So basically, it created this lovely chart, lovely formatted. It's perfect for use. I wouldn't change any of it at all, except for those two errors. And honestly, if you had transcribed this yourself, could you have made those mistakes? Sure, you could have. But what I want you to understand is it does a really great job of processing this. But it did miss two small things. Here's another example. Doesn't have to be a document. It can be almost anything. Here's a photo of a tombstone for my second great grandmother. And this is her tombstone. And I said, please transcribe and describe this. Don't add any information. Please include only what's actually on the tombstone. So it transcribed the tombstone. It did it beautifully. It added the different letters that are common to the Swedish language. It gave me all the appropriate information. But it also gave me a full description of gray granite stone with lichen or moss growth, particularly on one side, two American flags on the ground on each side of the tombstone. Well, it's actually the tombstone behind, but suggests that it's located in the United States. It's in a grassy area like a cemetery. It talks about the engraving and the letters, which is a character used in some Scandinavian alphabets. So, I mean, it gave me a really nice description of the tombstone with a lot more information than maybe I was intending to get, but extremely helpful. So one of the things you'll find with these models is they often add information. They give you more information, more than you asked for. Here's another tombstone. This one is really tough because it has an inscription at the bottom that's not fully legible, and all of this is difficult because of the wear on the stone. But it did a really good job of looking at the tombstone and trying to figure out what it said. I enlarged the picture and said to it, the inscription appears to say, and I put unknown words, be at rest, unknown word, hear my suffering, unknown word, be over. Does this appear on other tombstones that would help identify what the transcription actually says? It not only gave me two versions of this phrase, but it gave me references to where they were, other tombstones they were on that I could compare to. I mean, it was incredible. So it helped me figure out what this said by looking in its large, vast memory repository to give me information that would help me determine what this tombstone says. Here's another example. I uploaded a couple of pages from a county history profile of the son of my second great grandfather. This was in a county history for Chicago, and I uploaded two separate pages of this profile, and I asked it to extract it into a table with all the individuals named in the profile, and add a column that identified the relationship of each person. And it did a really lovely job of pulling everybody out of that two-page document. Then I asked it to identify the locations listed in the text, which associates were identified at each location, and it gave me the various locations of the people in the document. But don't stop there. It uploaded that great family history document, and then I said, please provide some suggestions for a further genealogical research plan for this family. Okay, so where should I go next? And it gave me a very in-depth list of the things that I could look at: documents, immigration records, property records. As it turned out, there was like 12 different particular items that I could look at. And of course, when you've been doing research for a while, sometimes you forget or leave out one of the steps. So it's a really great reminder. I like that it started with vital records and census records, the basics of genealogical research. But after it gave me this bulleted list, I said to him, okay, please expand on number 7. Number 7 was engage with genealogy societies. And it gave me some information about the various genealogical societies in Illinois that I could actually engage with to do further research on this family. So you can continue to peel the onion of whatever it is that you've worked with and see what else it has to offer. Now, the holy grail for many genealogists is, because we all have old handwritten documents, is the transcription of written documents. So let's walk through how you might get some of that done. First of all, I want to start with the fact that handwriting recognition is still evolving. It has gotten incredibly better in the last 6 months, but the quality of the source does matter. So whether it's fully legible, if there's clarity, if the document's faded or torn, there's always language challenges. Of course, you might have documents from Germany or Sweden or Italy. And so the quality of the source does matter. The prompt that you write matters. And remember, just because it can recognize handwriting doesn't mean it doesn't need to be checked. Much the same as the printed obituary I just showed you, where I needed to check, even more so for handwritten documents. So when it comes to handwritten documents, there are a number of tools out there, and many of these, as little as 3 months ago, were the choices, and that's really changed in the last 3 months, because some of these were not fully baked, and throughout 2024 and 2025, I was recommending Transcribus, which is a German tool where they have spent years developing and reading ancient handwriting from all over the world. And all of these are options: ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, all of them you can upload a handwritten document to. Ancestry actually has a tool. I'm not a fan, honestly. Genealogy Assistant is also out there, which is a Chrome extension. All of these will do handwritten documents. But in my view, right now, today, the clear winner is Gemini. But before we get to Gemini, let me talk to you about why the non-Gemini tools are somewhat challenged. It doesn't mean you can't use them. If that's the model you have, you're very in good shape to go try them. But you do need to be aware that I've done multiple documents in all of these tools. Each one of them skipped portions and or inserted words. There were definitely misspellings, wrong words, word substitutions, especially true with names, misspelled names. Some of the tools guessed more than others, even if you said don't guess. It really had trouble with items in the margin, things written between the lines. And for some reason, Claude doesn't like large file sizes. So the images I was using in Claude all had to be downsized, smaller, so you could upload it and it could work with it. So those are all things to be aware of if you're working with one of these tools in handwriting recognition. Nevertheless, even these tools, and I'll talk about Google in a second, even these tools are 100% better than doing this yourself. As long as you can use it side by side with your document and you can check it, it's going to do 90% of the work for you. It's tedious to transcribe a 20-page Civil War pension record that's handwritten. That's very tedious, very helpful, but tedious nevertheless. So these tools can do some of that, take some of that effort out of the process, but you still have to be the human in the loop. So let's talk about Google AI Studio. Google AI Studio is now the clear winner in my mind, and it's free. I'm going to use an example here. This is a handwritten will from 1826. This is the prompt I gave it to process this handwritten will. And I want to focus specifically on some items in the prompt. So first of all, I told it was a handwritten will from 1826. So I told it exactly what kind of document it is. I actually probably should. Said a handwritten will from Kentucky from 1826 because that's what it was, and that would have been more specific. I said, please transcribe it faithfully. Right, so that means stick to what you see. Do not correct spelling or punctuation. Please keep the line breaks as they appear in the document. That makes it a whole lot easier for you to check it. Do not guess. If you're unsure as to a word, please place it in brackets with your best interpretation. If you have no idea, please leave a question mark. So I'm telling it, it's okay to not know. It's okay to not give me an answer. Don't try and please me. Just give me what you can read. And this is the address for AI Studio. It's not as neat and clean as ChatGPT. You have to have a Google account, which is free. If you don't have a Google account, if you already have a Google account, you'll just use your own and sign in. There's a lot of stuff going on in AI Studio. It's a developer site for developers. There's a whole lot of stuff you don't need to pay attention to when you go there. You are only looking for the text prompt box at the bottom in the middle of the page. And that's very similar to what you used to in ChatGPT. But Google AI Studio is free. All you need is a Google account, and it does an amazing job. Let me show you. So this is the will. This is really bad. This handwriting is not easy. There's things crossed out. There's things interlaced between the lines. This is not an easy will to work on. But here is the transcription that it gave me. It identified uppercase as in the first. It gave me the stuff that goes between the lines. It did a really, really nice job of transcribing the will. And this is a hard one. I was not expecting a lot because this is a difficult document. It's not neat handwriting. It's a little bit difficult to read. It's somewhat faded, but I got a pretty good transcription of it. But there's only one thing wrong with this. And again, you're the adult in the room. It starts out by saying, in the name of God, amen, I, Jane, of the county of Fleming. Okay, so here's the problem. Her name is White, W-I-G-H-T, not Might. So I went back to the large language model and I said her surname and the names of her sons and grandsons is White. Now, what comes up next when you're going through Google AI Studio is it has this section that's called thoughts. So it's going to sit there and think. It's doing deep thinking. It's going to sit there and think. And then you're going to be able to expand its thoughts if you want and see what it was thinking. But at the end, it said, thank you for that correction. It's common for names in the 19th century cursive to be misread due to similarities between letters like M and W. Looking closely, while the initial letter had 3 downward strokes, often characteristic of an M, identifying as a W based on genealogical context is very helpful. So it was kind of like, I really think it's an M, but if you tell me it's a W, well, okay. And here's the thought process. And this is only like a quarter of the thought process. It says it's verifying the transcription, it's analyzing the dilemma, it's confirming that letter, it's reevaluating letter forms. It actually went through the whole document and made changes based on it now thinks these M's that it thought were M's are all W's. I mean, it literally did a whole like 2-page diatribe on my correction. But the good news is it went back through the entire document and fixed other things when it found that. So, I mean, it did an amazing job of trying to figure out what the right spelling for things were, just because I simply told it was the wrong wording. So you can read its thinking. It's very logical, but it also tells you other things that it changes. So that's handwriting recognition. Let's move on. Research Assistant is a really helpful tool for the large language models. Things like what happened in the 1860s that might have caused my ancestor to immigrate from Sweden to the United States. And it'll give you historical context, and it'll tell you what's going on economically and agriculturally in Sweden during that time frame. You can say what resources would be helpful for doing genealogical research in Mexico. My granddaughter married a guy whose family is from Mexico. He wanted to do genealogical research. I know nothing about genealogy research in Mexico, so I asked ChatGPT, okay, where do I start? The definitions, it can tell you what the genealogical proof standard means, or it can tell you what BCG standards are, or it can give you the definition of a legal term. You don't know what it means. It also provides resources. So where can I get a list of Irish parishes in 1850? It'll send you to the Family Search Wiki. So the reality is it does a really good job of helping you with your research. But you also don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can use work that's already done. Within ChatGPT, there's something called custom GPTs. You can see it in the box here. This is only if you have the paid version, but these custom GPTs can be well worth it. And if you simply put into the search box for a custom GPT the word genealogy, it's going to bring up a whole lot of custom GPTs that people have written. Here's a couple that I happen to really like. Mark Thompson wrote the Locality Guide for Genealogical Research. This helps you create a locality guide for a place you're researching. So you've never done research in Lawrence County, Kentucky before, and you need to do research there, and you want to know how to approach this location. And he's written a whole custom set of prompts and instructions that all you have to do is give it the location, and it'll build out the locality guide for you. It'll actually give you a historical background, geography, record types, dates. It goes on quite a ways and gives you a whole lot of information on the various locations that you might be doing research on. And again, suggestions on research types that maybe you didn't know about, or research facilities that you might not have known about. There's another one called The Legal Genealogist by Judy G. Russell, who many of us know as a legal genealogist. And you can ask that question. So here's an example. What does dower mean and how does it work, right? So maybe you have a land transaction and somebody had to sign off on dower, and you're like, what does that mean? How does it work? And then she pulls out of her various items in her database, and it provides you with information. So there's a lot of things that you can use that are custom GPTs, and you don't have to write your own. All right, let's talk about writing and creation. You can write emails, family narratives, blog topics. You can identify presentation titles. You can create images. We'll talk about that in a second, but those are all things that you can create. When I do presentations, I often ask it for, suggestions for a summation of what the presentation's about. Help me write a, 4-sentence summary. I ask it for titles. I actually asked it for help in this one. When I created this one, what should I name it? It gave me a lot of ideas. They were all very creative, and I didn't use any of them because I'm very good with just give me the basic facts. But it can be very creative and very interesting. You can also write emails with generative AI. You can say, help me craft a response to this email, or I want to request something, or Gemini and Gmail actually have an integration. So if you use Gmail, you can use Gemini as an integration tool, and it'll help you. It'll read your emails. You can also dictate to a Gen AI. So if you're not quite sure what to say, I've done this. You pull out your phone, you go, I need to send a note to, my friend Susie saying, thank you for dinner last night. We had a great time. Let's do it again soon. Write me a nice message about that, and it'll give you the right thing to say. You can just cut and paste it into your text, and you're done. You can pick a tone too. You can tell it, do you want it to be a friendly message or a formal one, professional, cheerful, strictly to the facts, whatever you want from a tone. You can pick a tone as you're writing. here's the oh, I had a slide about this. This is all the various fancy titles it gave me about AI and genealogy. And again, some of them are very creative, but I think they were just a little too much for me. One last comment about documents and using these tools. As you're working with documents, you might think about what's called multimodal processing, which is using more than one of these tools in conjunction with each other. For example, you can use Gemini for large documents because it handles the largest documents. You could also handle it for now for handwriting recognition. So you can give it the document, have it do the handwriting recognition, then take that output into ChatGPT and have it build a chart and a timeline and some of those things. So you get a nice output from ChatGPT. You can take it to Perplexity and feed in the document and ask it for research assistance, research suggestions, a research plan. It'll give you local research identification. Perplexity is really good with sources. It gives you sources. So if you're trying to write something that's more scholarly and you want to make sure you have citations and sources, Perplexity is great for that. And then a lot of people in genealogy happen to really like Claude for writing. It likes the tone and the phraseology, and there's some things about ChatGPT's writing that people aren't so crazy about, but they seem to really like how Claude flows and how it writes, and it does a nice job of editing and improving your writing. So again, you can use all of these in conjunction with each other. You don't have to stick with one. And you can do the same exact prompt at two and see what you get that's different. And maybe you'll like one or the other, or maybe they'll add to each other and you'll have a better output. So make sure you think about using more than one. I'm getting close to the end here, so I just want to make sure I cover images for a moment. Some of the models will produce terrific images that you can use for your genealogy. They range from the surreal to the very real. All of these images are generated by AI, and it depends on which model you use and what you ask for. But if you are working on a family history and you don't have a photograph, you can create one with AI that's representative. The one on the left here you can see is a farm in Iowa, and I asked for corn and I asked for a horse, and I got a fairly realistic looking farm setting. I even asked for it to be the house to be white. So you can, as much as you want, create your own image. Now, of course, you have to um, attribute that, and you have to tell people that this is not an actual image, but it's certainly an option for you as you're expanding your options for how you can make your family history come to life. And these are all options. Literally, this is the same prompt in 4 different tools. I said, create a square image in blue tones that represents genetic genealogy, family trees, and DNA for use in a PowerPoint presentation. And I got 4 different uh, blue tones that I could use in my presentations as an image. So it gave me a whole lot of choices, and everyone is a little bit different. And so, again, try more than one to get what you're looking for. Here's one that's a little bit more photorealistic. I said, give me a photorealistic image of a small fishing village in Newfoundland and what it would have looked like in the mid 1850s. And that's what I got. And that is a similar vision because I said, I don't want the big ship in in the harbor. It's a small little harbor. The big ship wouldn't fit there. And so it actually took out the big ship and left a small ship. And took out, some of the water. And so you can ask it for an image that you might want to use in your stories. And last but not least, while not strictly a genealogy use case, I have to share this one because it could be invaluable. ChatGPT does a great job at tech support. You can ask it, how do you change the margins of Word, or how do you set up voicemail on your iPhone, or how do you create a GEDCOM? You can ask it all kinds of things, and they are great at providing help. You can ask it how to do something in Family Tree Maker. It knows how to fix Family Tree Maker. You can ask it how to change the filter in your refrigerator. I've asked it all kinds of crazy things, and it's really great as a tech support advisor. So don't hesitate to use it that way. And then there's endless other uses. You can extract census records. Dana Leeds has a whole video on how to do that on YouTube that's in your syllabus. Again, research and background information. It can give you future research efforts, definitions, and explanations. It can persuade somebody. If you want to persuade somebody to do something, it will help you do that. It can give you preparation. It can give you things to think about in advance if you're going into a conversation that you're nervous about. It can distill all your information. You can upload 7 documents and tell it to distill that into a summary and create a timeline. It does amazing work at all of those things that can help you. Some final tips. I suggest you join the family Facebook group, Genealogy and Artificial Intelligence. You can listen to the podcast, the Family History AI Show by Steve Little and Mark Thompson. And there's a new one out I just found that's not in your syllabus called Ancestors and Algorithms. And he does a really nice job with artificial intelligence and using it for genealogy. That's Ancestors and Algorithms. These are all people who have done a lot in artificial intelligence with genealogy. Those are all people to pay attention to. There's 2 books out there using artificial intelligence. Thomas McKenty and Nicole Dyer both have books on artificial intelligence and genealogy. Those are all in your syllabus. And then when you think to the future, what is coming down the road? Well, first of all, coming down the road is more records, because artificial intelligence has allowed these big companies to go on steroids. They have more and more records available all the time, and more indexes available all the time because of all the AI they're using. AI is going to be in everything. It's already almost in everything. I'm sure you see it all the time when you're online. There will be new browsers to take the place of Chrome and Firefox and Edge, or there'll be new souped up browsers that will allow you to use AI in conjunction with your browser. So you can, right now today, you can use Perplexity's Comet. You can bring up Ancestry, a page on it. It can see that page and you can have it extract a page directly out of Ancestry for you. Agentic AI, which is agents doing things for you, are coming. It's already being used in businesses today for things like if you need to change your address, there's not a person changing your address anymore. It's an agent doing it. And there's going to be all kinds of new types of analysis coming. Artificial intelligence will allow new analysis of DNA and DNA matches and family reconstruction. And there's a lot coming down the road, and it changes almost daily. So the bottom line is just try it. Jump in, the water's fine. And there's lots you can do with AI. And if you're not, just go ahead and stick your toe in the water. It's easy and fun. And with that, I will answer any questions.
That was a lot of information. So we do have some questions. We'll start with, and you kind of answered this along the way. This came early in the program. What's the most efficient way to use AI in your genealogy research? And I think that was prompted when you were just going through all the different
Models
that we could go to. So I think you've answered that pretty well.
Yeah.
Can you use AI to format a family tree?
It's not great at that yet. Some of them are better than others, but it doesn't do a good job of creating the spatial components. You can have it create a blank one, like if you want to fill it in. And you can feed it your GEDCOM file, and it'll know how everybody's related to each other, but it doesn't really do a good job of creating graphics in that way, like from what you've provided. So not yet.
Okay. Do you save a list of the prompts that you use or the ones that AI generates?
Both. Now, one of the things you can do if you have a paid model is it'll save all your prompts. So you can search your prompts, so you can find things in your search. But I do keep a prompt library, if you will, of the ones that I like that have worked for me. You can also create your own custom GPT. So ChatGPT is $20 a month, and if you pay the $20 a month, you can create your own custom GPT that you can then go back to and use over and over again with where you've fed in the prompt that you want. Like for the locality research guide, the one I showed you, you can do one that's specific to your family and what you're looking for, and then it has all your instructions. There's also some things you can do to customize them so they know who you are and what you want. So some of my prompts, you notice I didn't start with you're a professional genealogist, and it's because I have mine programmed already that it knows that's what I am. So I don't have to give it those instructions.
Great, great. This person says, I've not been able to feed ChatGPT a PDF file. Have you had this issue? And what's the best AI option for PDF of handwritten letters?
Yeah, so you need to take a JPEG of the handwritten letter. So you can save your PDF as a JPEG and then it turns it into an image, and it'll take images better than PDFs. The issue with PDFs is some PDFs are images and some PDFs aren't. And I honestly don't know that I can tell you the difference, but sometimes it'll take a PDF and it'll do it just fine. And sometimes that PDF, it just says it can't read anything. It's like the page is blank to it. In which case those you have to turn into JPEGs or take pictures of them on your phone, print it out, take pictures on your phone, upload the pictures.
Okay. Nice workaround there.
Yeah.
Next question. I have obituaries in German. If I upload them to AI, will they be transcribed correctly? Does it do well with different languages?
Yeah, so I've translated Swedish documents. I've translated documents that were in Hebrew. I have done documents in multiple languages. Now, do I know they're 100% right? No, I don't, because I don't speak the language. But, for a Swedish birth record, it's literally just, mother, father, witnesses, location, date, and if you get out of that and it looks good, you're in pretty good shape. But if you're doing like an estate document and it's 5 pages long, do you know if it's translated from the German correctly? No, but you're going to get close. And one of the things that you can do is, kind of go back and compare and see if you think it's right. But of course, there's nothing that's going to be as good as a German speaker looking at the document and telling you it's correct. So in some cases, you still have to use that professional. But if you send them a translation that's been done by ChatGPT, they're going to charge you a lot less because they're not going word by word. They're just looking at yours and looking at the translation and going, okay, yes, here's the mistake. That's going to take them half the time. You're going to spend a lot less money.
Oh, that's good. We like saving money. Next question up. Does AI bank the information you input, and will it use that information for other customers' inquiries?
Yes. There's two ways around that. One is you can change the privacy settings so it doesn't bank them, but then it also doesn't save your information, right? So it's not there anymore when you go back to it, right? So if you want to save a search for later, you can't use the privacy setting that way. There is a setting in ChatGPT that's called temporary, so it will only be temporary, and it will not. So if it won't keep anything. But yes, they do train their models with them, which is why one of the things, and I should have added this in. I'm sorry, this should be a slide. You should not put anything about living people in here, and you should definitely not put your DNA matches in here. You can put DNA match information in if you mask the information, right? So if this is match A, match B, match C, match D, right? Then you can put it in and use it and analyze it, but do not put matches with names at all, and don't put stuff about living people in here.
Good safeguards there. Next question up. So are you saying that AI Studio is best for handwriting only or better more broadly?
I'm specifically saying that on when it comes to handwriting recognition, because it is far superior. It does the other stuff as well. I actually think ChatGPT does a pretty good job on all the rest of it. So I mean, it just depends on what you want to use. Um, ChatGPT, AI Studio has some limits. It's free, but it has some limits. So that's another thing to be aware of is, you can't upload, 50 documents at a time. So that's the only downside. But the upside is it excels at handwriting recognition.
Very good.
But it's an all around large language model, much as all the others are.
Okay. This is a little bit longer question. Can AI be used with old photographs? I'm thinking of old faded photos to see how many people are in the photo, or use facial recognition to compare multiple photos in your
Mhm.
collection to help identify who might be in some photos.
Yeah, so it doesn't do facial recognition yet. So it's not going to be able to do that, compare people and are these the same people and all of that kind of thing. Ancestry is working on that. There's another technology out there called Related Faces, and they're working on that. But that specific use of generative AI is not out available yet to do facial rec. Um, it will do photo analysis, so it will tell you things about the photo. You know, if there's a car in it, it can tell you what year the car is. It can tell you the dress style and what year the dresses are from. It can do photo analysis. It's not going to do the facial part, but it can do photo analysis. I'm not sure about the faded piece. It doesn't do photo restoration at all. So, well, I take that back. It does do some of that. The problem is that I've used it for photo restoration, and it does a nice job, but I think it distorts people. They don't
Mm,
look like they looked beforehand. It's getting better, but I'm not a fan. I don't like what it's done with my personal photographs that I've put in there.
okay. And I took a DNA test through Ancestry. Any suggestions of how I can use that info with AI?
Well, again, I mean, if you want to, that's DNA is a lot more complicated when it comes to AI and how you can use it and what you can do with it. I would go out to that Facebook group that I mentioned, run by Blaine Bettinger, and look at what people there are saying about DNA these days. Um, you you could feed it DNA information. The problem, of course, is you have to mask it all. You can mask it all using Goldie May. Goldie May has a tool that allows you to blur all the names, and then you could take the information and upload it. But you'd have to have a way to identify people individually. I mean, they'd have to be renumbered or renamed or something like that. Um, so DNA is just a lot more complicated for AI. Yeah, I mean, someday it's going to get a lot better, but right now it's harder.
Okay. Excellent. Early in your presentation, I think you mentioned another program with us coming up.
No, I mentioned in the past, I said,
The
I've been
past,
here
or the past.
before. It's
Okay, very
wonderful to
good,
be
very
here
good.
again.
Okay, very good. I want to make sure we're confirming when we're going to see you next. So,
I'll be back anytime.
okay, very good, very good. That is all the questions I have at this point in time. Unless you have any final words that you wanted to share. As I said, this was as an intro to AI. I think this was just a ton of information for everyone out there.
Well, and I just wish you all luck. And again, jump in, the water's fine.
No, hopefully they will. So I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And please, as a reminder, all three of our Genealogy Week performances are going to be recorded and are going to be available with those handouts on our website, hcplonline.org, on the HCPL Universe page through February 28th. So then tomorrow night, Genealogy Week continues for it's January 28th, sorry, Wednesday the 28th, DNA Demystified, a guide to cracking your genetic code, which is going to be presented by Jamie Lee McManus Mayhew. And on Thursday, on the 29th, we have Zigzagging Through German Church Records, presented by James Beidler. And you can register for both of those programs on our website, hcplonline.org. So we hope to see you for those. And then also don't forget to take time to complete that quick survey that's going to pop up after the credits. And we do use your input to choose topics for our virtual genealogy program, like the one you just saw. And it's so important to do that for us. It just takes a minute. So we really appreciate if you take that time to fill out that survey. So have a great rest of your week, everyone. Thank you again, Peggy, for your time. We really appreciate it. Enjoyed
Thanks
it.
for all the nice comments from everyone. I appreciate it.
Very good. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks.